Hello everyone, it's Adam here. This is going to be the 600-mile break-in service video for the R1250GS Adventure. The instructions will be identical to the R1250GS and R1250RT, RS, and is there another one? No. Any R1250 motor. It's 600-mile running in service. This is going to be the same as your 6,000-mile service, almost. In that service, you're going to be doing an oil change. So oil fluids, oil filter, and then you're going to go to the back and you're going to replace the drive fluid in the bevel gears. That's it. There's some crush washers involved, but really that's all you're doing for this install. At 12,000 miles, you'll do valve checks, air filter, and you'll do the bevel gears again. So every 6,000 miles is an oil change. For running in check, they put some moly grease in your final drive, and so that's why the 600 mile requires final drive being done. Let me give you just an orientation of what we're looking at on this bike here. On the left side of your bike is where your oil filter is located, right there. And there's an oil filter wrench you'll need to get. You can use BMWs or you can just buy one from Amazon. I'll link to that in the description below. Left side here, you will have an oil filler port. Mine looks different than yours because I have a special tool that's kind of anti-tamper. Your oil filler tool is actually found under your OEM seat. Let me just walk you over to the OEM seat and show you where that is. So you have your passenger seat right here. If you turn that over, you'll see a tool right there. On the bottom of this tool is going to be a pattern that allows you to unlock that oil filler plug. If yours is the black plug. If you have a silver one like me, you'll need a special tool. Don't overcomplicate it. Underneath the bike is going to be a skid plate. You will need to remove that skid plate to drop the oil, to drain the oil. So let's take a little journey underneath here. You'll see you have some Torx bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You'll need to undo all 5 of those to drop that skid plate. If you have an aftermarket skid plate, I can't help you. This is the OEM skid plate. Drop that. You'll be able to access your drain plug. The volume, I believe, is 4 liters. I will verify that and put it in the overlay. For the final drive, I'm assuming, unlike me, that you don't have a final drive guard on. If you don't, great. Next clip, we'll have it off. Underneath will be your drain plug, and then your drain fill is right here. That silver thing right there. And volume, again, I'll put an overlay up. Best to use the BMW G3 hypoid axle oil. There are some liquid moly versions. Some people are still running around using 7590 gear oil from liquid moly. Some people use it. You probably could. But what you're going to be using is this stuff, the hypoid axle oil G3. I think it's 170, 180 milliliters. Again, I'll put that below. And then some crush washers will need to be involved there for safekeeping. So we'll run through that. I know the 3-minute intro. You can fast forward to the 3 minutes mark if you want to. We're going to start with the oil change. And throughout this video, parts are going to change on the bike. Just ignore that. That's just me doing my thing. The steps are the same no matter what. The final thing, you want to make sure your bike is heated up, warmed up around, above warm-up temperature, call it 150 degrees. Let it settle for a second, and then you can start draining that oil out. Let's get started. Okay, so a bunch of T30s, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are your T30s and your skid plate over there. Now you're gonna grab a size 10 hex. You're gonna put it right under here, and it's not gonna be that tight. Make sure you have a oil drain ready. And then you're going to drain your oil again. Engine should be heated up. After that starts to drain, give it a few minutes, but then you can loosen up and drop this oil filter as well. It will drain a little bit faster if you also open up the oil filler plug. So I've already cracked this. There you go. 600-mile fluid is draining out. Just adding one thing, this oil filter that came from the factory, it is not the typical 76 millimeter 14 flute compatible oil filter wrench. I actually have 2 here. They're both 76 millimeter with 14 flutes. This one's different. It's actually 11 flutes. And so I don't know what size it is at all. So I'm just gonna grab my backup oil filter removal tool. I don't recommend you guys use this thing, but in this case I have to. I really don't understand why this is as it is. Why are you the way you are? Why are you that way? So don't recommend that, but as long as it's not over torqued from the factory, we'll be fine. If not, I'll have to figure something out. Roll the bike to the hardware store and try on 1,000 different oil filter wrenches. So it came off. It's just a little bit of a pain in the butt. It's frustrating, but it is what it is. You're gonna get oil on your header. It's fine. Honestly, it's fine. Not a big deal. The header can take it. But yeah, just that was, it's fine. I mean, the one I got from Max BMW that's for the R1250GS is the old 76mm. So whatever this was not it. And curse you. Yeah, curse you, whatever you are. There's the part number if you want to look up and laugh at me. Okay, we have the oil filter installed and it's torqued down to, I think, 18 Newton meters. Now put oil on that rubber ring. Make sure on the inside, I should have taken a video of this, make sure on the inside, on the motor side, that the rubber ring from the last air filter or oil filter is not still there. As you can see, it's still on this, but just check. So this is the OEM drain plug from the GS. As you can see, there's a little bit of magnet there that collects some metals. It's not very powerful, and so I always take this and I put it into this box that this other one comes into, and I always buy these super magnetic plugs from Dimple. This is the specs, M20 by 1.5 by 12, 30 bucks. I think Beamer Boneyard has them, Max BMW has them, but you can see here it comes with a new crush washer, and then you have this Dimple here. This is a super magnet, so more surface area, and it will, when you drop the drain plug after you've done this change, you'll have a lot of flakes on there. So I think $30 is a lot of money, but it's the super magnet lasts forever and less metal contaminants in your engine. So put this back in, tighten it up, give it 1/8 of a turn after that, and you're done. Continuing the 600-mile service, we have not put oil in the front yet. We're going to do that after this starts draining. We're going to remove with T30s the possum scraper back here. Makes it easier to get to this fill hole right there. If you have a longer bottle, you could do it obviously, but this just makes it easier. So remove the possum scraper, and then you're going to come underneath and you're going to start draining. There it is right there. And then you're going to come around back to fill it up. Now, one thing I do is I try to make sure that I can crack this. So not a problem on your 600-mile service, but if it's an older bike, you just want to do this top one first to make sure this can be cracked. It's in there. Once you break that free, then you can do the bottom one, but just something to, like, you don't want to drain the fluid and then you get this seized up and you have a problem. This bottom piece is a T45 bottom bolt. And I like removing the wheel. I'm going to do another video after this where I lube the splines, so I remove the wheel, but by removing the wheel, which is a T50 with 5 bolts, then you can drain this into a reservoir much more easily. That should be pretty clean, but you'll see you've got a lot of Marley grease on there. That's just from the factory. They keep these things pretty lubed. You'll see like black stuff in there. That's the grease they use when they're putting it all together which is why at 600 miles you're dumping this and putting fresh stuff in. That drain, don't forget to replace your crush washers on top and bottom. You should have gotten those when you ordered this stuff from BMW. I've gone a couple of times not replacing them and have no issues, but that is the required specification. Now I'm going to pause here as I'm going to lube the splines, but through the magic of editing, we'll come back and we will put the drain plug back in. We're going to switch over to this super magnetic drain plug, Dimple plug, and then fill to 180 milliliters with the Hypoid G3 axle fluid. You could just use 7580 or 7590 gear oil, but I'm using the BMW branded stuff for this first break-in service. While that final dry fluid is changing, we're going to grab our Liquid Moly 5W40. I use Motul exclusively, but I've had this in the garage for a while, and truth, honesty, I am going to change the oil again in about 1,000 miles because I'm changing it before going on a trip. And so this is basically just, I hate to say this, it's not going to be in there very long, like 1,000 miles. But make sure that whatever you use, it's 5W40 and it's the Jasso MA2 specification. You'll need 4 liters, but I would add 3 and then check the sight glass. Now things are appearing in the sight glass. As you can see down here, just a little bit. But you currently have an oil filter that is empty. And so what you're going to do is you're going to, once the sight glass is starting to fill up, stop what you're doing, start the bike, let it run for 30 seconds, and then turn it off. And that lets a chance for the oil to cycle through the system, then wait 3 to 5 minutes, and then you can then top it fully off to the top of the sight glass. I think it's only 150 milliliters difference from the bottom of the sight glass to the top of the sight glass. Maybe it's 250. Okay, now that we have this cracked, and the drain plug back in there, we're going to put 180 milliliters of fluid in. You'll see there's a crush washer, a copper crush washer here. And so you're just going to put this to the side, make sure you have your new washer next to it. And then let's grab our filler and put 180 milliliters of the G3 hypoid axle fluid in there. All right, we have our 180 milliliters of the G3 axle grease, or sorry, lube fluid. And we're just going to remove this. If you look in here, you'll see that there's our new crush washer in there. So yours actually might stay in there, in which case if you forget to take that off and you put a new one on the bolt here, then you're gonna have 2 crush washers, one crushed, one uncrushed. So just keep that in mind. So I like these beauty bottles because you have a little tube there and then you can just pour it right in and give it a good squeeze and fill it up to the brim. Now we're gonna let this run for 30 seconds to let some of that oil cycle through the motor. You don't have to tighten this down, just get it, get it where there's nothing can fall in there. Start her up. And while the oil that's been circulating is dropping back down into the oil pan down there, I'm gonna go ahead and put the rear wheel back on. So if you did this rear spline lube, then your rear wheel is off. And then get the possum scraper back on, and by then we should have this at the halfway mark or just below it in the sight glass. And then you can add as much oil as you want to the very top. You can go over a little bit if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. As long as you see a little bit of headspace in there, you're good. If people freak out about being in the middle of the sight glass, it doesn't matter. I usually fill mine at the very top. That allows for a bit to burn off. Last part of the 600-mile service will be to check your coolant reservoir, which you can do so by looking straight through here. Right there is your coolant reservoir. And you can see, let's get the light on for you. There we go. You can see it should be, there's a min and a max. And so right now we are at the min for that fluid level. And so to top that off, you're gonna get a little bit of a syringe or something. You're gonna remove this T25 right there. And you're gonna take this off, and there's a little cap on top, and you can get that to the max level. Also part of the 600-mile check is your spokes. And I will say, my 2018 GSA, there was a rear wheel recall. And so, well, it wasn't a recall, it was a service bulletin that BMW issued that if you had more than, like, I think 18 loose spokes, they would replace the rear wheel. And so at 600 miles, I checked the spokes, and like 26 were loose. So the way you do that, just take a little tool here. They all have the exact same ping sound. If you hear a pong, then you know you have a loose spoke. Do it on both sides. If you get a pong, I think it's 8 Newton meters is the torque spec, and these are your little bolts. Straightening or tightening wheels is a work of art. Me personally, if I had 1 or 2 loose spokes, I would still go to the dealer and have them tighten the spokes up and pay them the flat labor rate to do that. Honestly, it'd be an opportunity for them to also hook up the machine to do the onboard diagnostics check. So it's not really a bad idea to pay the flat 1 hour labor rate if you have a loose spoke, especially if you're at the 600-mile mark. They might find something else wrong, but usually you shouldn't have any problems here. But spokes are going to loosen up pretty quickly if there's a problem. And so we'll do all 4 sides, inner and outer spokes on both sides. It's been a few minutes, so you can see now the sight glass is at the lowest level there, and it was in the middle when I started the bike, and that's just oil going into various parts of the motor, but also into the oil filter. And so now we're gonna top this off. A couple hundred milliliters should get you up to the very top of the sight glass. And you're all done. Now, 600-mile service, if you look at owner's manual, also requires checking things like uneven brake pad wear, bolts, front wheel hub bolts, caliper bolts. Really, 600 miles is a chance for your dealer to look the bike over and make sure that nothing from the factory has just kind of come loose or is out of place. So doing this at home obviously has its own risk because you're not a mechanic. However, odds are pretty low. I will say, for peace of mind, if you're like me, I take my GS to the dealer every 12 months. I pay the flat labor rate and have them inspect the bike front to back. It's just peace of mind. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. So just a checklist here. We have tightened the oil filter up to spec. We have changed the rear final drive bevel gear fluid. We have also lubed the splines. We've retorqued the wheels and everything back to spec. Again, I'll link to that below. We have filled the bike up right to the top of the sight glass there. I know you guys are like, oh my God, it's overfilled. It's not, see? It's right there. I'm neurotic. And then of course we tightened down our oil filler drain plug. And then, you can look things over like, brake, battery terminal connections. Look at your brake fluid, make sure your brake fluid is filled and not overfilled, not discolored. And then you've gone on a test ride and everything is perfect. Congratulations, 600-mile service is done. Look at your manual. Your manual changes every year, so there could be some changes, but please review that against my video. Don't just take what I say as blind faith. And obviously follow the torque specs. Don't over torque things or under torque things. These are very important components. Last thing is, if you're watching this to get a 6,000-mile service, 6,000-mile will be just engine oil and oil filter. Your 12,000-mile service will be doing the final drive fluid again and the air filter. And there's a video I have on that for a 1200 GS, and this is identical in 99% of the ways. There's like an extra 2 bolts you have to undo to get to the air filter on the 1250 models. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I will recommend you guys pick up a GS 911. Where's mine? It's right here. Pick up a GS 911. These things are awesome from Hex Code. And this will allow you to plug the bike in and clear codes and reset that service reminder. It's expensive, so maybe go in on it with a buddy, or if you go to your local BMW club and pay someone to use theirs, because it will use up one of their free VINs on their bike. But yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching, everyone. Ride safe, and I hope this helps save you some money.